What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Johnny Mack here. Just wanted to give you a heads up that if you are looking for a community that is open to discussion as far as mentorship, conservation, the wild, becoming a better person, and all of that, there is a group for you on Facebook, and it is called Soul Seekers. Soul Seekers, we are all about making ourselves a better person. We're all about making sure hunting lasts for generations to come and encouraging people to get plugged in. Whether you are someone who has something to give or someone who needs to soak it up like a sponge, this is a community for you, and I strongly encourage you that if you're on Facebook to join Soul Seekers, and if you're not on Facebook, hop on there just for that group. It is only going to be as powerful as we all make it. And so just remember that life happens for you, it doesn't happen to you, and that you can't outgive good. You can't outgive good, people. I want you to understand that, and I want you to believe it, because when we believe that and we lead with courage and we lead with intention, lives are changed, lives are transformed, just like on this podcast, transformation through primal adventure. Be blessed. Enjoy this episode. Talk soon. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Soulful Hunter Podcast. I'm your host, Johnny Mack. Through this podcast, I'm on a mission to transform lives through primal adventure and to spread my mission of mentorship as conservation. This podcast is powered by Washington Backcountry, a resource for all hunters, both new and old. To find out more about Washington Backcountry, go to wabackcountry.com or search for Washington Backcountry on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. The Soulful Hunter Podcast is also proudly presented by the Crazy Elk Company. Based out of the state of Washington with products made in America, they are providing solutions with gear to problems you didn't even know you had. Their tag wallet is one of those solutions, and I had the pleasure of using it on all of my hunts this last year, and it is now a mainstay in my kill kit. The tag wallet is a water-resistant zippered pouch that comes with its own reusable zip ties to safely and securely store your notch tag for quick and easy access. For more information, go to crazyelkcompany.com and use the code SOULFUL with a capital S to save 20% at checkout. Be blessed, everyone, and as always, stay soulful. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Soulful Hunter Podcast. I'm your host, Johnny Mack, and today I am joined by the founder of an organization that you might have heard of lately if you were on social media, and it's called HOWL For Wildlife.org, and I'm with the founder, Charles Whitwam, out of California, and it is all about uniting hunters and standing for what we believe in and actually taking action, because it seems like the silent majority has been silent for too long, and it's not only in politics, it's leaking out into the hunting realm. And so Charles is on tonight to talk all about HOWL For Wildlife and tell the story about how it came to be and how you can get involved, and I'm really looking forward to this conversation. Charles, thank you so much for joining me tonight, man.
Thank you very much for having me. Really looking forward to this. I love it that you and so many others you're promoting us, and that's what we need. We need this message we believe in this message. We think, our platform works. It works quickly when you want to take action. And, obviously one of the missions is to get as many people involved as possible and headed in the right direction.
I love it. Yeah, agreed. There is, and I saw this quote, and I've used it. I'm a school teacher by trade. I don't know if you know that much about me, Charles, but I'm always talking about this. My mission is mentorship is conservation. If you want to have hunting last for generations to come, you need to invest in the lives of people. And it's time for the lives of all these people to speak. And the spoken word is the most powerful thing that we can ever do. And it is something that people have been taught not to use. We'll pass the buck on to somebody else. We'll let somebody else do this. I don't need to do it. I'll let somebody else do it. And as a school teacher, it's really sad to see that in public education, we teach people to be compliant. We teach them to not speak. We teach them to stand in line and to be silent and to not use their voice and not question and not be critical thinkers. And if you're listening to this podcast and you don't agree with that, I'd love to hear from you, because that is truly what my stance is. And I am a public education teacher. So I want to open up this podcast with a quote from World War II from Martin Niemöller. And if you listen to this episode or this podcast before, you've heard me quote this. It says, "First they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there is no one left to speak." And that is a quote that is used in a lot of different realms. I talk about it when it talks about standing up for hunting with investing into people's lives. But Charles, I've done enough talking. I want to hear you talk about Howl for Wildlife and how you are passionate about what's going on and how we are going to rally the troops. And it's time to circle the wagons around hunting and everything that we believe in.
Yeah. So to your point, I feel like we're making it easy for people to have that voice and to speak up. It's dangerously easy right now because it's almost like we're filling in the blanks. So you're adding your voice. However, our mission with this is to, as people are involved, as we're activating hunters, as we're turning hunters into activists, or giving them the opportunity to be such, they will learn along the way. They're going to learn a lot more along the way because they're going to be more involved. They're going to be, because when you invest time into something, you emotionally get attached to it, and you want to learn more. You want to be more involved. So it's going to be more than just, oh, these guys wrote out some cool content here, and I believe that, and I'm just going to add my name to the bottom. I think what we are doing, along with everybody else who is involved, not just with Howl, but everybody else who's doing similar, educational items or action items, or, everybody in the industry, blood origins, for instance, you start listening to that, you're going to learn some things. You're going to learn some different perspectives. So I feel like we are empowering people. I mean, this sounds, I've never thought about it this way. It sounds kind of funny because we're doing this to the hunting industry and to hunters, but we can't just be hunters anymore. We can't just be in the industry anymore. We can't just circle it all back around to ourselves. We're facing we're in a battle here, and we're a battle against other activists who are very engaged emotionally. They don't have science or data to back them up, but they're very engaged. So we need to take this battle outside of ourselves and reach the non-hunters, reach the politicians that we need to reach, the decision makers that we need to reach. We got to become activists ourselves.
Yeah, I agree 100%. It was probably early 2020. I did a podcast with Alan Ernst of SCI at the time, regional director of SCI. And I was talking to him about how not hunting and fishing rights, the right to hunt and fish. I cannot stand when people use the term privilege. It's a privilege to hunt. It's a privilege to fish. Oh, it's a privilege to be able to procure my own food? I disagree. And this is where the world of politics and hunting are colliding. And I love how you're talking about this. We need to be activists for hunting, for what we love, for a better future. And it starts with actually understanding that every voice counts, every dollar spent counts, everything matters. It's not just the Pittman-Robertson Act that is funding hunting. We have to be on the forefront. I used to work at REI for the longest time, and you come across all these people that we share the lands with people, and yet they don't even want you to have that meal at home. And my wife and I, we had delicious backstrap tonight for dinner with our children, and my life has been transformed. I've only been hunting for 7 years. My life has been transformed when I started hunting. And my life has my children now. I was a father. I wasn't a father when I started hunting. I knew I wanted to be a hunter. And now I'm the father of 3 boys, and now that's gonna last for generations to come, but it's not gonna last for generations to come if we're not on the forefront and speaking loudly about it. So talk more about this howl, how it originated,
Yeah.
and what your mission and purpose is with this.
There was a bill to ban bear hunting in California about 1 year ago that was introduced by a senator out of San Francisco. And um, when I say we, it was me and John Stallone talked about it. And I was like, man, they're trying to ban bear hunting outright in California. And he said, have you thought about change.org? It was the only kind of thing we could use then. So we started a petition and sent it out to everybody that we could and used our social media platforms to just engage people, and it really worked. People were making um, their Instagram profile pages the change.org link. I mean, thousands of people did, and obviously making posts about it and everything you could do, and it just grew and grew. And in 5 days, we got 27,000 signatures and tons of calls to the office and to the Fish and Wildlife Committee, and they pulled the bill. There was other people involved too, obviously, but we had certainly the loudest voice. We made the most noise. So after that, the next day, after somebody had called me, a bunch of people called me when it got pulled, and I was like, holy cow, this has never been done, and this was just done in California. Something just happened. So at that point, I started working on what is now HOWL for Wildlife, and it's been about a year. And I launched it Tuesday, January 11th at, I guess, the right time, because on that day, all of these bills came out at the same time.
That's why,
And
you know,
so
I
I was
just
like, all right, I'm going to be pretty busy here. So
can I
I
just
have
jump in
been.
here for a second because that was
Yeah.
one of the things as an end user on social media, I almost didn't trust you guys at first. And that
Hmm.
maybe that's some feedback for you is
No.
like you say I do believe that there are no coincidences in life, but the fact that
Yeah.
all these things came out and then all of a sudden Howl is coming out and being pushed, I'm like I'm super skeptical of conservation
Hmm.
organizations, critter
Yeah.
clubs, and all that. I've been burned by a few different organizations. I do support a select few, and listeners, if you want to listen and find out, feel free to reach out to me. But so I was a little skeptical about getting Howl on tonight. However, when I went to you guys' website and I went through the
Yeah.
process of letting my voice be heard through some of the pre-written things that you do, the one clicks, I was like,
Yeah.
okay, and I didn't have to do it and pay money, so that was also
You
something.
did not have to do it and pay money. No. It's kind of on purpose. So protect. We have lines in there that says a lot of things, but some of it is protect wildlife. There's pictures of wolves. There's coyotes. People look at that and they second guess it, and I did that on purpose, 100%. I didn't want it to be. I didn't want it to just look like a page where hunters go, because we have to move way beyond hunters.
Mm,
It's hunters that are going to push this, but we have to move way beyond it, and we shouldn't be afraid to say, I mean, listen, I don't want all wolves gone. I understand their purpose, but believe me, they need to be managed. Yeah, I get that.
yeah,
Okay. And that's okay. We love wildlife. We love wolves, most of us. We love mountain lions. We love all the predators. We don't want them all gone. There's a place for them, but they do need to be managed because it directly affects the ungulates, which are directly underneath of them, and then turkeys and small, you name it, everything. Everything just sort of filters down from that. But we are also in that management system. And when we say protect wildlife, like preservation or whatever, that's sort of a scary word for people. They like to use conservation, but I'm using protect wildlife because I really do believe that through the management of species, which includes hunting, which that what does that mean? That includes killing or harvesting, whatever it is you want. That's actually protecting wildlife. What's what's not protecting wildlife is getting rid of all management, letting predators run loose. That's actually killing wildlife. So I kind of I'm just I want to change the narrative,
mm,
and I think we have I mean, I know that we do. We have the data and the to back us up on this. What it is that we're saying. So I get a little upset. I don't want the anti-hunters to co-opt um, these ideas that we have and kind of turn them on us. It's just not right. So I don't know what you've seen as far as posts and whatnot, but obviously I sort of want to advertise out into the mainstream about uh, what hunters have done and where the money has gone and what conservation really is, and the billions of dollars that have been raised to actually protect wildlife.
Hmm. Yep. Yeah. So, so here you are. You're a hunter. You've been hunting. You're a lifelong hunter. And what
Yeah,
what what is?
I grew up in Michigan, and I didn't for a time period I didn't know people didn't hunt. So that's the truth.
Yeah. Well, the fact that you guys came out heavily, especially during the spring bear um, topic here in the state of Washington, which, by the way, listeners, we're recording this on the last day that you can get your voice being heard for the state of Washington spring bear,
Yeah.
which is unfortunate because we wanted to make sure we release this beforehand. However, there are a lot of other issues that are pressing that we need your voice. However, Charles, my first big game animal that I shot was a black bear.
Cool.
And
In Washington?
here in Washington, and I
Yeah,
am more of a bear hunter than anything else. Which
sure.
when hearing you guys say, "All right, let's go do this," because there are groups like, everyone rips on BHA because they never stand up for predators. Well, I don't really hear a lot of, and at least that's what I hear. There's a difference between opinion and perspective, or different things like
Yeah.
that. There's organizations that seem to be a little more quiet
Uh-huh.
when it comes to, if we're all in this together, we're all in this together, and public lands is
It
public lands
I
versus, what do you think?
well, I guess that's a certain risk. I guess there's a risk if there's safe things to talk about and then there's risky things to talk about. But I can't speak for anybody else or any of the other organizations, but I'm okay with the risk because I trust we can get the right message across.
Mm,
So, and I think we have the right message. And by we, I mean the right message is out there, is what I mean.
yeah.
So, like what I was just talking about predator management and why we need that. Um, that's an important message, is just explaining why we need that, how that affects ungulates. Looking at, for instance, a 5-year study that was done in California on how black bears in the Mendocino National Forest, how they affect the ungulate population, and how that affects. There's also a lot of mountain lions there, and we know mountain lions typically they'll take. It's said they'll take one deer a week. However, when there's too many black bear, they will steal the take from the mountain lion. So then the mountain lion has to go out and kill an extra animal. So there's a 5-year study done by biologists on that. And so that kind of stuff. Arm yourself with that information and see how that filters down. And it's we're just looking at science. You don't have to like it. You don't. It might not be for you, but that's still the truth.
Mm.
That's still just the way it works.
You mentioned earlier that anti-hunting is very passionate. They're very emotional when they come to the table on stuff, and they're very vocal with that. I always talk about on this podcast that in order uh, to make a difference in somebody, you got to hook the heart. You have to hook the heart, and then once you hook that, you got them. So as far as, like, you know a mission statement, a creed, like, how do we hook the hearts of people to have them have the courage to speak up when they have always historically been silent?
I think our, our group coming together, hunters as a whole coming together, gives everyone else confidence. Like we got each other's backs. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So one of our missions is to honestly is to change the entire hunting industry. What I mean by that is not the way that it's just adding something to it, or taking 20% away, however you want to do it. But here's basically what it is. I think if we dedicated as Joe Smith Hunter all the way up to, the world's most popular TV hunting show or hunting bow hunter or the biggest brand, everything that's inside of the hunting industry, I think we need to dedicate 20% of our time that we spend on, and of course in our lives, but what we spend on social media needs to be towards taking action and being an activist on hunter issues. So when a brand has brand ambassadors or has the influencers or pro staff, whatever it is, they have a set of rules that you got to follow, right? New rule: 20% of what you post on social media is about taking action, is about getting involved in these organizations, is about what you can do in your state. It's about what you can do in the other states, because we're all in this together. And the way, man, I can just go off on a tangent here, but
Let it rip,
if
man.
if we do that, think about the impact of what that would mean. If those are just sort of the, hey, this is the standard. And I'm not making this up just to like make people feel good about, this is what we have to do. Maybe 20% isn't enough, but imagine if we started there. Imagine if we started there, where money would go. I mean, that's one issue. We need to make sure money is going to things that work.
Mm-hmm.
Needs, the money that HOWL spends, whenever it is that we actually have any money, it's going to go towards, it's going to be in line with what it is we're trying to do. What it is we're trying to do is get people involved. So the money we spend is, how do we get more people involved?
Mm-hmm.
How do we get more people involved in the conversation? How do we get more people involved at a fish and wildlife meeting? And not just showing up and being like, oh, what do I do? We have Zoom training meetings for that. Guess who else does that? All these things that I just mentioned.
The antis.
The Humane Society,
Yep.
the antis, exactly.
Yep.
So it's, in a way, that's all I'm kind of doing, is like, all right, here's what they do. They're really successful. They're a smaller group than us. They have less money than us, but they focus that.
Mm-hmm.
They focus those passions and they focus that money towards a similar goal. And that's what makes them organized. We have billions of dollars in this industry. We have millions and millions. And I mean, there's big game hunter, or, licensed hunters is over 15 million. Anglers and sport shooters and whatever is 60 to 80 million. So you cannot tell me we don't have the numbers. You can't tell me we don't have the money. Oh, they have deep pockets. Have you looked around at, I mean, good God, the stuff I wear when I go hunting, I look down sometimes, I'm like, I have like $8,000 worth of gear once you look at the bow and my binos and my boots. And it's like, what the heck is going, we spend so much money.
Yeah.
So a little bit of that has to be towards activism. Think about how powerful we'll be. What I think can happen, I really do, because this would be just like a tidal wave of truth and data and science and money and a message. I think we can make them irrelevant. So I think when they go to a representative and they say, hey, we want to, we'd like you to sponsor this bill, we'll help you out with that, that representative is going to go, this isn't my constituency.
Right.
They're not going to want that.
Yeah.
Because you basically been deceiving everybody. It's just not, no, get away. I honestly think we can make them irrelevant. If I go out of business, I'm successful.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I do know what you're saying, and talking about focusing that energy and effort is important. It will make a difference. The issue is how do we get the voice out there, right? As social media goes so far, but I'm a member of a hunting forum here in the state of Washington, and a lot of those people might be on social media, but they're not. And I've been perusing that board this week, and I haven't seen anything mentioned about HOWL. And I don't really
Hmm.
see a whole lot mentioned about different organizations as well.
Hmm.
It's really, really interesting. And historically and in life, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, right?
Yeah.
And so it's time to not just be a squeaky wheel. It's time to put a whole wrench in the works and get it to
Mhm.
come to a halt and force people to look at the issues.
Well, we can only reach who we can reach. However, we certainly have some ideas if we get into the sporting goods companies and the hunting companies, like the big stores.
Mhm.
It's very possible to reach. It's actually very simple. I don't want to give it all away, but it's very simple to reach anyone who buys anything inside a Bass Pro Shop
Yeah.
or Cabela's or Sportsman's or whatever it is. Very easy to reach all those people too, so they don't necessarily have to be on social media to see this. Um, and that's just the direction. That's the direction that we are headed, is to reach the most people we can possibly reach through all these other organizations as well. Getting everybody on board and I'm not saying like these one-click actions are the answer. Certainly not. But it solves a problem. It certainly fills a void and it solves a problem that exists right now.
Yeah.
And that is, you know, um, actually, here's an easy way to reach your legislators, but also reaching across state lines and making your voice heard there and educating the decision makers, the reps or the boards or whatever, on what science-based wildlife management is. Because if something happens in one state and it's successful, if something gets banned in one state, it's going to come to another state and it's going to come to another state. So you have to look at it. If you're in Louisiana or whatever and you see something in California, you have to say, well, that's no different than that happening in my state, because it's going to somebody must be here. It's going to get there eventually. So it's going to get to your state is what I'm saying. So if you're in another state and you're like, oh, that's just, you know, that's happening in another state, I shouldn't get involved. Wrong. It's coming to your state. And then when it does come to your state, you're going to want our help over here as well. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then on top of that, it's sort of the same idea. If we get rid of predator management over time, let's say we get rid of predator management and we can't hunt lions, we can't hunt bobcats, we can't hunt bear. What After 10 years, what will that do
It
to the
de-
ungulate
it'll
population? After 20
decimate
years,
it, and
what's
then
it going
they're going to take it away based
to do?
off of science numbers.
Based off of science numbers.
Exactly,
Yes.
because they're going to be saying, well, now we don't have a healthy enough population for you to hunt.
Yep.
So now we have to cut hunting numbers or eliminate it. So
And
yeah,
that and that'll go right down to turkey. That'll go right down to whatever you name it. So if you're just a turkey hunter, you better get involved in black bear hunting issues and whatnot. And even for fishing, because they want to end all fishing as well. And you can see that with that OP 13, the Oregon bill, that ends all fishing, ends all hunting, basically ends all anything to do with animals. You can't clip their nails, you can't breed animals on farms, all of that. That's something they're trying to get on the ballot. I mean, it sounds crazy, but I don't know. I don't know where that's going. But the cards are on the table right there. You can see all that.
well,
You can see what they want.
I'll tell you where it's going, at least from my perspective, and that is lab grown meat. Petri dish food that they want you to eat, and they don't want you to be able to provide off of nature, organics, and all that
Yeah.
sort of stuff. So I love it. So okay, so take us through a couple things because I don't want to keep you too much longer. When people go to howlforwildlife.org, what do you, as the founder of this organization, want people to do? And what are some of the things that you can point them to get started right away? So, everyone's always going to say, "I'm too busy. I'm too busy." What can you do to start making a difference today?
So if you are really too busy, then you can take 5 seconds and go to the Take Action page. And on the Take Action page is essentially pictures that you can click, and then you add your name and your email address to the bottom and click add your voice or add your howl. So we have, I think, 6 actions up right now. We have 2 more that we're waiting on, but you can basically take action in 6 to 8 states right now by just clicking a button. Okay. Since and there's an opt-in button, so I'll get your email address so then I can email blast you some other actions as they come. If you want to take 10 seconds, you can click join the pack. And if you do that, you get a login and password, and you basically get an account for HOWL For Wildlife. And then, so you sign in, you do that first. So now whatever happens on the website when you take action, so whether it be actions that are fish and wildlife meetings or state actions, or if you share a page, or if you share you'll get like a little recruiting link and you put it on Facebook or an email, or you can put it on Instagram. When people click on that and they come in to HOWL For Wildlife, you get credits for that. So what does all that mean? We've incentivized actions. We've incentivized activism. So now when you take all these actions, or when you share, or when you tweet, or whatever, there's a point system that you can see in your account. And when you get to a certain level, whatever awards we have, whatever contests we have going on at that time, you're automatically entered into winning, for instance, a lifetime membership to the Western Bear Foundation, a Stone Glacier Solo Pack. They're giving out, I think, a jacket and a hat with that as well. We have a full day Colorado float river trip. The other thing, and we got a bunch more stuff coming, but we just started. The other thing is, for people, you do not have to be a member for this. Anytime you take an action, you get a thank you email. In that thank you email is a link to Bear Beans Coffee, which gives you a discount code to their coffee. And what they do, they donate a portion of their profits to bear conservation. And with this code, everybody who buys coffee, when they use that code, they're going to donate a portion of that back to HOWL For Wildlife. So, I mean, simply put, it's a place to go to take action and see the issues that are going on in any state and make your voice heard. If you want to win fabulous prizes, create an account, which takes 5 minutes, and you're automatically entered into them. And one day you might just get an email and say, you just won this. It's the simplest. It's so simple. And in the next 2 weeks, we're actually going to make it even more simple. You're going to have a user dashboard where you can see everything you've done. You can see that now, but what you can't see is everything you haven't done. You're going to be able to see that, and there's going to be an interactive map of the United States. And if there's an issue going on in a state, it'll glow. So you're not clicking on states that don't have any issues. It's going to glow, and you click on it, and you're going to see all the actions going on in that state. So it cannot be any simpler to get involved at this level. On top of that, we're going to have other things you can do that are going to broaden how you want, broaden your activism. And if you want to get involved in, cleanups of grow sites that we're going to backpack into, or if you want to help install a drinker for wild sheep, we're going to, tell you how to get involved with that. If you want to be a wild game, a hunter education instructor, what's the methods for doing that? So we're going to have that stuff on there too. But the main goal of this is to fight these issues with one voice, with 1 million people, seriously, 1 million people, and to make that the simplest process you could ever possibly dream of. Everything else with getting involved, that'll be secondary, but it's always going to be quick and fast and easy for anyone to get involved. Like, zero excuse.
I love it. Well, Charles, I know time is limited tonight on this episode, but I do want to thank you so much for coming on and promoting HOWL For Wildlife. Listeners, it's time for you to start standing up for what you believe in. Go to howlforwildlife.org. Get connected, get plugged in, start taking action. I know today, specifically, with it being the last day to let your voice be heard on the state of Washington black bear topic, I went to this Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife's website, and I couldn't find anything on there about spring bear. I had to go back into the 2020 history or 2021. I forget what it was to even find the link to even make note of it. And our own fish and game department isn't even promoting this as a news piece on their own website. And so you got to ask yourself if you don't stand for something, you're going to fall for anything. And if we collectively as hunters don't stand for something, we're going to fall for everything. So, Charles, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. Is there any other ways besides going to howlforwildlife.org that people can get a hold of you or follow along or get connected?
Yeah, certainly on Instagram. We got a huge, giant push on there. That's howl_org, or type in Howl for Wildlife. Same thing on Facebook and Twitter. If you're on Twitter, those are just shares of essentially what we're doing on Instagram. But yeah, that's it. howlforwildlife.org and Instagram, Howl for Wildlife.
I love it. I love it. Everybody, it's time to take a stand. You know where I stand. I want you to join me. I want you to join Charles and the rest of Americans that are going to be standing for our rights. You give them an inch, they'll take a mile, and it's time for us to be a collective together and really make a difference in this world. Be blessed, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it, like it, subscribe it, and pass the word along as much as possible. Remember that life is happening for you. It's not happening to you. Freedom on, everybody. And as always, stay soulful. If you enjoyed today's podcast, I'd love it if you could go ahead and give this a rating as well as subscribe. Also, you can check us out on Instagram under the Soulful Hunter Podcast. Make sure to tag us in pictures and posts and use the hashtag Soulful Hunter. To find out more about the Soulful Hunter Podcast, go to soulfulhunter.com and be sure to follow the podcast as we are going to be bringing you a lot of great information, insight, and changing lives through primal adventure. I look forward to connecting with you on the next episode. Stay tuned and stay soulful.